have in VR. My first ever VR story. Am I gonna try to post the VR videos? I'll try. I just don't know how to get my YouTube channel on to the VR thing because I don't really know my YouTube password. I pretty much just typed in a bunch of random stuff. I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, this is a story that I have in Yeeps. You can make like reskins, unless you haven't played Yeeps before. You can make like reskins of whatever kind of weapon or like item that you have. I made my first ever reskin. I made my first ever reskin based off one of my old creations that I couldn't really do because, well, I didn't have enough butt coins. Yeah, they're called butt coins. The currency is called butt coins in Yeeps. I know it's very weird. But I just wanted to go into home to show people my new reskinned spear. It's kind of like a Goofy, not like Goofy from Disney, but like it's like a Goofy staff, like a meme type staff. Since it was my first time making a customized thing. And then there's this guy. I'm not saying their username because I genuinely don't even remember their username. I barely saw their username. Anyway, he just randomly walks up to me and says, "Your reskin's bad." And then he starts talking about like why my reskin is bad, blah blah blah. So it's not the entire story. But he left, and then I asked people to rate my reskin. Most people said 5. Most people said a 5 out of 10. And then there was this guy who had a TF2 type thing. Like, he had pyro, he had scout. He only had pyro and scout. Since he has creative talent. He's thinking about making a TF2 map and more TF2 items. One slight problem though, can't do heavy because Yeeps doesn't exactly have a minigun. But they have a sniper. You can make sniper. I gave him that idea too. Anyway, back to the guy that was like, "Oh, my reskin is bad." So I asked him, "What if people said your reskin was bad?" He just replied with, "Then they're wrong." That's not a good reason why. That is not a good reason why your reskins, or if someone says that your reskin is bad, that's not a good reason. You're wrong is not a good reason why, especially because it's their opinion, man. I always thought of him like the average Twitter user. When someone has an opinion, Twitter users just slander them because they think their opinion is wrong, and then the Twitter user thinks their opinion is right. That's genuinely kind of what he sounded like. And he told me that I sounded like one of those TikTok supporters that were like, "Oh, I support TikTok," or whatever the heck. That doesn't really make sense because we're not even on the topic of TikTok. We were on the topic of reskins. He just went on a whole nother thing. And I know I went on a whole nother platform, but genuinely he sounded like a Twitter user. I know bringing attention to the situation might get the attention of the same guy that said my reskin was bad. But I genuinely do not care. this guy had like red edgy reskins, of course, because he sounded really edgy, like Shadow from frickin' Sonic the Hedgehog, or I barely know any other edgy characters. I'm a Sonic fan. You should already know that by my YouTube channel like name. Anyway, back to the topic. He had like red edgy stuff. And he only showed us 2 reskins. He didn't even ask other people if they would rate his reskins. He just went to a community world and just left. It was probably an emo community world. Anyway, I asked. I already told you this. That part where I told people to rank my thing. Like, there's like one person that said 10 out of 10, but I'm counting 5 out of 10 as a W because it's my first reskin, okay? I don't have reskin experience. There was like one person that said 1 out of 10, and there was one person that said 0 out of 10. Most of them said 5 though, which I'll take. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you guys that because and if you're asking if I'm gonna make VR content, I'll try, okay? I'll try my best. I'll try my very best. I'll try my bestest of best. If you guys want VR content, then let me know. If I ever make a community post or like comment in this video, do whatever. Anyway, that was the story of when I met probably an egotistical Yeeps player. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment if you want me to make more VR videos. Not more VR videos. I don't make it. Anyway, comment if you want me to make more VR videos. Let me know. Anyway, see you later, alligators.